What is up, people? We're back with another episode or installment of the Arc Hive with 4/5. That is 4/5 of Archeons. Tim is still out doing his thing. So we got Huff over here, K Nasty, T Swizzle, and as always, Cody manning the station. So what are we talking about today, boys?
I don't know. We're just talking about the local music scene, and I guess.
Yeah, let's just start with that. Yeah. Nashville, our take on what we've experienced so far, the little bit that we have. What are your thoughts on, like, you know, genre? Everyone, I would say, like, my I don't know the word, what I thought of here before I came here was, it was all country.
Right.
But
I think that's a stigma for sure.
Yeah. I would say even, like, the people isn't really country. Like, for the most part, like, there's definitely the touring crowds that are...
On Broadway.
Yeah. But, like, for the most... Like, the people that you meet... Yeah, it's kind of weird when you think about it. I mean, it's, like...
Because, like, very few people you meet are really even from here anymore.
Yeah,
so
true.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely the tourism part of Nashville is, majority country. But, like...
And that's probably where the impression comes from, too, because, like, anyone who visits here is going to go downtown, where there's...
Country Music Hall of Fame.
50 bands playing country songs and covers. And
Journey.
Like, oh, there's nothing but country there.
And Journey. Don't stop
Journey.
believing.
Yeah. It definitely is, like, classic rock, but...
Yeah.
I feel like when you go in venues that aren't... venues that put on, like, original music shows, then you're going to have, like, more locals there. So I feel like people going to those shows have, like, a better representation of what...
There's a large, I guess, group to pick from as far as, like, music in this city, like... Because I know, like, certain bars that play just blues, and then you've got, of course, metal at your, like, dive bars, and then East Nashville's all, like, indie hipster shit, so...
There's everything.
I feel like there's, like, a Nashville rock, like, genre.
Yeah.
Like, like, I hear a lot of bands from around here, and I'm just like, oh, that just sounds like, Nashville rock.
Yeah.
It's, like, indie,
Yeah, for sure.
different stuff sprinkled in there, but I feel like Nashville's kind of getting a sound as far as, like, their original rock bands, like, coming out of here.
Yeah, true. Very true. We haven't played too many shows yet. Played at Rocketown a couple times. Not a bad venue. No alcohol, but other than that.
Yeah. Sounds normally pretty good, but I feel like people don't want to, like, hang out because you can't drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like people normally come to watch you, and then they're going to go to the bar down the street where we normally end up.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I was thinking the other day how, the bands that you find when you're a kid are kind of the ones that you stick with. Like us with the, Avenged, or Chris and I with Avenged, and finding them when you're, 13, 14, and just falling in love. And I was like, Rocketown would really be a solid place if we look at it that way, with, like, bringing out the younger crowd and stuff, because that's
true.
And, like, you want to get those kids, because they'll, they haven't developed their music taste, so they'll hear your shitty band and be like, this is awesome. You know
True.
what I mean?
And then they can grow with you, and then
Yeah.
eventually, once you start writing, like,
Good
even
music.
way better music, then they'll be like, oh, you guys sold out, you suck.
Yeah,
But,
true.
but still. But yeah, there definitely is, like, a prime age. I think I've heard the term, or that 30 is, like, when most people have discovered all the music they're gonna, like, really discover by, like, 30.
That's why
But
on
I feel like it's
Facebook,
definitely younger than that, too.
on Facebook, you always see the people who are over 30 posting about, like, when I hear music these days, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's pretty good, but it just
Yeah.
develop.
mean,
Each his own.
As far as, like, pop music goes, like, there's gems in there.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, people... I feel like a lot of pop productions are, like... They lose... Like, a really good song will come out that has, like, a unique production. Like Adele. Or, like, what was it? Lorde. Like, she had, like, a very unique sound and production. And good songs, though, most importantly, which is, like, what separates it. So they'll, like, have really good songs, a certain type of production, and then a lot of other producers will just put any type of song into that production.
Yeah.
Or, like, use that same style, but it's, like, then they're just using any song, and if it sounds like you know, I feel like, you know, now there's like a bunch of clocks in songs.
Yeah, true.
Because like there was one good song that had a clock in it, and now they're just like, oh, that's a the middle probably was a banger, by the way.
One of the first ones. Yeah, Katy Perry's new song had clocks in it.
Yeah, it's like a common thing now, but it's just like stuff like that. And with the Mike Posner, I think, did one song, Took a Pill in Ibiza. How the chorus is like just kind of like that. It's like a vocal synth thing. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, you know, all the way from JB's to like everyone has like, you know, a chorus where like there's a pre-chorus, but then the actual chorus is no lyrics, just like a melody that sounds like a synth.
Yeah, that's how Face My Fears was too.
Yeah, but it's just like but then they lower their standard of the level of song, so it'll be like a really bad song that sounds really, really good, and then they're like, oh, this is pop music. It sounds familiar. People will
people listen
dig
to
it, but.
Well, that's why pop's popular. You know, it's like familiar to the ear, and then you can just get down. Because if something's got the same, because especially when things are written in the same key and stuff, you know, it's gonna sound really similar. So you're just gonna gravitate towards it for like people who aren't musicians.
I feel like you know it before.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
I think it all goes in trends. Like a few years ago, like a lot of pop music had like this trumpet sound in it.
Yeah.
And, like now it's kind of like
Safe and Sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The capital cities.
So.
Yeah.
It just goes in trends. I think what's popular at that point, like all the producers and artists like do this, you know.
Yeah. For sure.
And then I feel like it starts. Someone will do something really cool and it's like trickle down to where like now they're selling that same whatever they use now it's just in a plug-in that I can go buy for $99 and you know just make my own stuff that sounds like that. So
but I would say that
overdone.
Metal's the same way. You know, it's like think of like metalcore and how that got, you know, huge and blown up with like Devil Wears Prada, and then Acid Alexandria came along with their, you know, like using electronic shit, and then that was in a lot of stuff, and then Gent became huge.
Yeah.
You know. So I feel like all music kind of follows those somebody does something really well and then everybody copies it.
Trends.
And then for sure.
But that's like I was going back to pop, like there is golden nuggets. Like every once in a while there is like that artist or band or whatever that comes along and just does something different that everyone wants to copy in the first place. And it's like those are the ones that like
waiting to hear.
So to say like pop music sucks is like no, all the imitation of good pop
very true
sucks, but
same with rap.
It's like
same way.
Almost painful to listen to in a lot of ways, but
yeah. You got mumble rap,
going in country stadium rap pop is a thing now.
Damn, I will never forget like the first country rap song that I heard.
Dude, when you hear a guy with the country twang just like mumble rapping over like a banjo like verse, you know, I'm just like, what is happening?
Times. Yeah, turn this down because it keeps going on.
So what's everybody's experiences? I know you two like moved here together, so you didn't really have as much of this, but I guess you did because you auditioned a lot of people. But like, what's your experience with like trying to form the band in Nashville with the scene as it is? Like, I'm curious to hear about that. Like, good, bad, like
with musicians here?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the majority of I would say like 90% of people here are probably better than me. Like, so I mean, I know you can't compare like that, but I mean, everybody's so crazy talented out here, and I think it just goes back to, you know, it depends on, like, as a musician, like, there's crazy musicians out here. I think the key is figuring out how to write songs. You know what I mean? It's like, because somebody could be a better guitarist or anything like that, but if you can write a good song, like, you don't have to be, you know, I mean, obviously that's the goal. I feel like Chris and I agree in that. It's like we want to push ourselves as guitarists and stuff, but like writing a good song and then figuring out how to implement those like talents that you have. Right. It's like
the same thing that makes like muscle cars cool. Mm-hmm. It's like muscle cars, like they'll have like 700 horsepower, but they'll just be cruising. It's not like them going stupid fast isn't like the cool part. It's like the fact that they could if they wanted to.
Yeah.
It's like class, you know. But like finding people that like share this, serve this song mentality over like glorify myself.
Yeah,
mentality.
Which, you know, we talked about
the trick.
And the EP is about, you know, and I feel like I've gotten better since I was a kid too. But still, it's like a lot of times you want to write something kind of for yourself, and it's like getting over that. It's like what serves the song here.
Yeah, for
Everything. So yeah, but yeah, I feel like people are really talented out here. Our tryouts were rough,
Vocal wise.
trying to find a vocalist was a journey.
And then you settled for me.
Yeah. At that point, we were like, "Fuck it."
Just take anybody.
Yeah. No, it was interesting, man, and in some way, it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of sad because there's these people who have this passion for music, and they love music and they want to do it, and they're just not there, and that's like kind of tough to hear because like I feel that dream, you know, like I
feel like, what if that's me?
Yeah, right. True.
Just no one will tell me.
Yeah.
Just like,
But
just give up.
but I feel like we have an ear for that, and that's why some of that stuff that people would send us, I was like, man, like you gotta listen to this back
Yeah.
and hear how off you are. You know, like we'll know if something's
right.
You know, at least we can tell. Like if something's on or off.
Right. Sometimes we'll
more
hear.
often than not.
Do you remember that one that was just distorted like crazy and you couldn't hear anything that we got? And it's like, why would you send this as
sounded like he put the phone like in a toilet and then
it was just crazy. So that was kind of the rough part of that, and like learning to tell people no and stuff was tough for me, but definitely got easier as we turned down our like 18th person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's to be expected though.
Yeah.
Did you guys go through any drummers before me or no?
No,
Play with
no,
any?
because we got you so early. Like, well, it was probably only like
I think
3 months
for like
in.
a few months.
Yeah. It was really soon.
Were you just shocked that I didn't play country?
Yeah. So,
Man, my experience before I found you guys was awful.
yeah.
Like, because I was here for 2 years, like, searching for bands, like, you know, Craigslist, Facebook, friends of friends, you know, stuff like that. And, like, I don't know, just the egos I encountered and just, you know, the level people thought they were versus where they were at.
Right.
It was a bad time, man. Like, and when someone told me about you guys and I listened to you guys, like, I got fucking pumped and just, I remember I contacted you, like, right away.
Yeah.
I was like, yo.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a tough thing, too. I think, like, recognizing where you're at versus where you can go, and also looking back at where you've come from. It's a good way. It's the same with, like, you know, like losing weight. You know, it's like you know where you want to be, but if you look back, you can see your progress and feel like proud, but keep your ego in check and know that there's still more that you can go.
Never done.
So I think that's the, you know, mentality that we try to hold is like, you know, we're learning how to write songs, and we've definitely gotten better, but like where we want to be is still so far to go, so you can't.
Keeps us humble, bro.
Yeah.
Keeps us humble. It's always changing.
Yeah. And then you'll hear just like people come out with, because like we listen to great music all the time, and you hear what they're doing, and it's like, man, like I really have a long way to go. And like that's the level that you want to be. You know, you can't be like, well, I might be better than some locals around here, because that's not necessarily like what you're trying to go for. So like you want to listen to that top tier and be like, you know, what are they doing, and like, you know what.
See, I kind of agree with that. But you shouldn't really compare yourself to.
This is a cool thing to go into too, because I think that we just go off of different like things, because for me comparison's good to push, and I think that you've just found a way to grow without having to compare yourself. Or
I think it's good to understand quality, but
yeah, I think it's just like how you. It's like you could either look at something from a place of like jealousy, or you could look at something from a place of like admiration.
Right.
And if you're looking at it from jealousy, I think it's unhealthy. Like, why don't I have this? Why, you know, all that. But if you're like, I admire this about this because, you know, I could see why they have what they have, and like I want to try and do those things too.
For sure.
I think you would definitely be like a tool.
And you know, it's funny going into that. I think that's a huge thing for local bands, is to compare themselves to other local bands and get that jealousy where if like one local is doing something good, you kind of feel like resentment towards them. And I know that was big in Kansas when we were in the scene there, which is so goofy because like, you know, nobody's ever listened to a band and been like, I can't listen to this other band because I listen to this band.
Yeah.
Or maybe Metallica and Megadeth, something stupid like that. But that's
Right.
just goofy,
Unless
you know.
they got beef, bro. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
but like for the most part, like you're all on the same team, you know, and
Yeah,
like
it's like-
if somebody's doing something good, you should be
It's
pumped
like
for
it's
them.
like
and-
love. It's like it's not like limited.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
because I love my mom so much doesn't mean I can't love my dad. It's
Yeah.
like, it's like you just listen to more music. Like
and like if you look at any other level outside of, because I know that's a big thing for local bands everywhere, where there's kind of this like you feel like you're competing.
Yeah.
But if you look at any level past like people who are locals, like there's usually a lot of teamwork, and
They're
it's
all
like
friends.
yeah, they're
Like, how
trying
do
to
we
push each other,
collaborate?
yeah, and everything. It's just kind of the local, and you're kind of like
Yeah.
fighting to try to get to the top.
And I think that's why a lot of local musicians get this, like, oh, there's no scene, because there's no unity in the scene.
for
right.
sure.
Like,
That's why I want to get better about going to more shows.
yeah, we
'cause it's
do.
like,
We all need to be
you
better
can't
about that.
you can't put on a show and then ask people to come,
Yeah, and then you
and
know
then that's
go.
all you do. But you gotta be
But
out there.
I also feel like it's kind of good for us to recognize that it's hard. Like we only want to go out because we want to support the scene. So how do you pull people out that don't care about supporting the scene? You know, it's like how do
Yeah.
you put on like that bass on the lake? You know, like that was a reason to come out to. I mean, I know it wasn't like metal or anything, but that was a reason to go out to somebody who is performing because they gave you a reason to.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good to look at things like that too. Is like, why would somebody want to come to this rather than like they're in the local scene and they want to support, or like what would your average person want to come out for? And you kind of have to give them something, and that's the tough thing of figuring out how to do.
Making everything an event
Yeah.
in itself is tough.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like with the Bass on the Lake thing, like it was just so cool. Like having to hike out to the location, like
Yeah.
that alone was cool.
Yeah.
It's like a fucking adventure.
Yeah, for sure.
So like I don't
There's
know,
that,
there
and
does
just on the
there does need to be
water.
more of that in the scene. Like
More hiking.
huh?
More hiking.
More
No, no.
hiking.
Just giving people like an experience
Yeah.
and a story. You know.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, giving them a reason to come out, man, and I think that's so huge, and I mean, we definitely need to go out and support because that's, it's our scene too. So I'm not saying like that's the excuse not to. I'm just saying it's like it's a good thing to recognize of. It's hard to go watch somebody that you don't really know.
Yeah.
So why do you like what could you do to bring somebody out?
Yeah.
And that's the key question, man. Because like
Yeah.
once you figure
No
that
doubt.
out, then
Especially like speaking for myself here, like I don't like want to do anything.
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people probably feel that on some level, like the whole like you're happy when plans are canceled type
Yeah.
mentality. I feel like that's like pretty popular. So
mm-hmm.
to get people to leave,
People just want to Netflix and
to
chill.
leave
man.
their safe space and
Yeah,
they're
for
Netflixing
sure.
and chilling, it's got to be like
yeah,
gotta keep finding a way to
Let's just do Netflix specials.
ramp it up.
yeah. No, but for real, I think it would be cool
Yeah,
to
for
figure out a
sure.
way for people who don't want to come out to be able to experience something like online. I think that'll be something in the future, to learn how to
Yeah.
do. And then you could have like a virtual tip jar, or they could buy merch.
Right.
It'd still be kind of like they're at
Virtual
the show and
reality meetup.
yeah, and maybe be able to do something really cool on their screen as they're watching. Like to where it's like this.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think
like-
that's definitely in the near future, and also
For sure.
augmented reality shows.
Yeah,
like
true.
live, like you're wearing.
that would be
As a
that would
musician,
be
like,
sick.
how would you feel like looking out and there just be an audience of fucking like cameras, like?
yeah. Well, it'd be tough, because I think that
Because
I don't
as
know.
musicians, like you feed off that energy from
Yeah.
the crowd.
I don't know if it would get to that point because it's like live music is so
Nothing will be
Amazing.
actually being there.
yeah.
It's like
But
feeling
a
the bass,
hybrid,
feeling
would
like
be-
the bass just like grab your spine and shake you. It's like
some kind of hybrid would be
People
cool
dig
though.
that.
Like Brian was saying, I think augmented reality shows
yeah,
would
like
be
you're still there, wearing like cool glasses, making the whole stage
Yeah,
like
and
immersive,
everything.
I
like
see.
an immersive
just
thing.
everything's
cool,
around
man.
you.
You know?
Yeah, that would be
Nobody
so
take
epic.
this
Like
idea.
in Black Mirror.
Oh yeah, right.
Like
We
in
should
Black
cut that part
Mirror.
out. Cut that part out.
Yeah, copyright
Is that in Black
2019
Mirror?
Arc Hive.
Oh, like in Black Mirror,
They
like
make
everything
her.
else.
They make her huge on stage.
Oh,
Oh, Black Mirror already did it. Never mind.
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Well, they already did everything in the future.
That's true.
Yeah,
Black Mirror is a great show. Great
shout out
writing.
Black Mirror. Check it out.
yeah,
We've only talked about it in every podcast so far.
yeah.
so-
Pretty much.
So
Every
good.
single one.
Solid show, man.
Just watching it
It's
yesterday.
good promo for him.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I think that figuring out how to bring the local community together, and it's also hard with you know, it goes back to like you saying trying to find the local bands and stuff. I think that there's a lot of bad bands out there, which kind of makes it tougher as well, you know. And
I feel like Nashville mostly has majority good bands.
yeah, well, the bands that like you know, I absolutely love them, and we played our first show with them, and I just remember being like, shit, this is really cool. I remember like thinking, like, I actually enjoy listening to these guys, and that was a cool experience. But yeah, I think that's a tough thing too. Is, you know, there's that, and how do you, who's gonna go the distance? You know, who's not gonna be the local band that falls off, and then figuring out a way to collab, and give people a reason to come out, and you know, it's like when I tried that Spotify playlist and stuff, and it was just kind of hard. You know, I think even like local bands feel weird. Like,
they don't want to put their trust into another band. Like, it's weird. It's a weird thing. Like, they would rather like do it themselves instead of, you know, having anyone help them, because the whole
then do it.
Yeah, but you know, to a sense, like, I agree, and I can see that it's like hard for us to pass stuff off, you know. But I mean, I think if somebody approached with like a cool idea, I would be all aboard and be like, how can we figure this out together and stuff. And I think that's where you need to go, not necessarily putting your trust in somebody, but like figuring out a way to work together. Yeah. And it's like,
and I think that's the difference with us, is like we realize that like there's people out there that can help, but we also know enough in like a lot of different areas to where we can do it ourselves. I would say for a lot of other bands, like a lot of other bands I know personally, like friends and stuff, like they usually pass stuff off because they have no knowledge about anything else. Yeah. Like, yeah. And that's cool. Like that's fine if, you know, if you don't want to put in the hours to, you know, learn about, you know, marketing or, you know, promotion or anything like that, that's fine. You know, there's people out there that'll do it for you. But I think the reason we learned is to not get fucked over and to recognize,
that's
like,
you gotta be able to like speak their language, like know the lingo. Like that's why I went to audio school. Yeah. Is so when I'm recording something or being recorded, I could like kind of know what they're doing. Yeah. And you know, have like their vocabulary and be able to communicate like what you have in your head, you know, in a way that they'll be able to like make it happen.
Because obviously the goal is for us to be able to pass everything off. But having the knowledge of
even
knowing,
songwriting.
Yeah, we want to do
songwriting.
All we want to do is write songs and play shows.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And there are a lot of bands that do that, but it's like you just have to accept the fact that that's like after you record, or after you write a whole, you know, full length album and are able to play it great. You've done like 10% of the work.
Yeah, exactly.
How's it gonna get out there? Who's it gonna reach?
And people get there and are like, all right. Here you go, world. And it's like,
nice, it's out.
But you know, I think that here's a little meta thing, I suppose, is that's also something that's been pulling me away from writing, is because I'm like, oh, there's so much, like, writing really, you know, is so small of it. Yeah. So like I need to learn how to do this stuff first, but then, you know, we've been working on that pop metal song. I'm like, God, I forgot. Like, I just enjoy working on music. Like, that's what I enjoy doing. That's the whole
reason for it.
It's like us like not playing shows because we're trying to get, you know, everything in line to do that. But it's like, I like playing shows. You know, like I want to do that. And so it's like you can't forget like why you're doing this. While you're trying to build up like what you need to do. It's the balance is hard.
Yeah, and it's like the songs are the whole reason for everything else in the first place. So it's like 10% of the work, but like I would say like 90% of the importance is like just like writing good songs and making it sound really good. Yeah. And like, you know, and that's the fun part, but that's like, you know, after you do that, you have so much other stuff to do, but it's so important.
And it's hard. It definitely is hard finding that balance that you're talking about. Because like I know like even with like web building and stuff like that, like you just get sucked into it because it's like a project that you have to finish. Yeah. So it is, you know, it's tough. Like you gotta, you know, stay on it. Like writing music, you gotta fucking practice. You know. Yeah,
for sure. But I think, you know, that's why people don't do this, because the idea is fun, but then when it actually gets to when you're like, oh shit, this is a business. Like
Yeah.
Like you need to run a band like a business. That's when it becomes like, well, this isn't fun anymore. Like, I have to do work. You know, like why can't I just release an album and then boom, like
yeah, it takes all the, you know, glitter out of it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, boom, there it is. Like it's
and
like,
I think for our genre, like a lot of people get turned off when you say like you have to treat your band like a business. It's like
yeah.
Well, like everybody wants it to just be about the music.
Like
but
if
it's
you call
not,
the music like your product.
Yeah.
Or something that's like leaves like a weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like ugh.
Very true. But I mean, it is like there's no way around it. It's like you are selling yourself and your music to consumers. Like that's all you're trying to do.
And I feel like, but nowadays it's like you're not selling your music at all. You're like, you are more selling yourself than ever, but you're also using the music just as as kind of like the feelers. You know? It's like the top layer to get people to even care at all about what you do.
I definitely do feel like you're more of selling yourself now and like who you are and people can relate to you. So it's like the reason, brand, it's like
then you hope that you can just monetize it on the back end and help
with the music because people come out and stuff like that, and so like it's not like you're gonna sell a ton of albums or you know even like the top people aren't selling what they did 20 years ago.
And it's tricky because you don't want to be just a poster band either. Like, you don't want to be like, oh, this band is just a group of good-looking guys, and their music is shit, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's some people out there like that. You don't want to be that either.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's just...
I try.
I think it's just about being, like, honest and true to yourself, and people will see that. I mean, they'll know if you're faking something.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, that's kind of like the reason of doing, like, a podcast and stuff. It's like... Yeah, it's super like more, meta. We are monetizing right now, or trying to. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole.
Technically, we're not.
Well, technically, we're not. But you know, you're building up.
We're at the stage where it's like laying the groundwork. And it's like hard when we're at this phase because it's like we're kind of in between everything. So we're also like all working a ton and like that's just one more thing to juggle. And one more thing in the balance.
On the other side of the podcast thing, like not the monetizing thing, like. I feel like we also started this to be more open with our fans and to like create that relationship.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's what I mean. Is like you're selling yourself. Like you're like, here's who we are. You know, sit down with us and listen to us for an hour, and and like get to know us, and like we want to get to know you too. Like communicate back with us, and then because you like imagine just back in the day, like bands were assholes. They didn't have to be like personable,
right?
Like
should be good,
and so like that's just kind of the difference. I don't mean it as like a cash grab. I mean it as like a relationship building thing.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like it's just the way things kind of are now, and that's how I like it to be. Like I want to get to know the bands that I like.
It's like the biggest return on investment we can get is like relationships.
Yeah.
So no, we will reply if you comment on this video or blog post or Facebook post
or reach out at all.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we're bored. Please talk to us.
But we're not a bunch of assholes who just be like, fuck.
We're so humble. Just ask us how humble we are. We're so.
We like memes.
We do love memes.
But we want to talk to you guys. Like we want to see like what you're interested in, what's up. Like
for
sure.
Real.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's like the level of the music and like interpreting lyrics and stuff, but there's just like direct one-on-one.
Yeah.
Or not,
and that's
it can be one-on-one.
That's the cool thing about this stage too, is like you can really get to know the people who, like message you and stuff. It's like when we were doing the EP experience and stuff and getting to talk to the people that
was pretty cool.
Yeah. And like you just really get to message them and message back, and they're like, hey, I found you through, the music video and I dug it. And I was like, that's cool, man. It's like we're just
like the whole point.
And then you can like just sit there and talk, because there's not thousands of people messaging you yet, so you can really build that relationship and stuff.
So do you think that's what a lot of bands in our scene have a problem with, is just building relationships with their followers, their fans?
I don't think it's that. I think that I think everybody wants to build relationships with their fans, because I think that everybody's kind of in it to, like, the way I think of creating music is I want to impact somebody like I've been impacted.
Yeah, and I think that's why we all started being musicians.
Yeah, and I think that's how a lot of people feel. Yeah, local bands want to build a relationship, but the hard part is like how do you like start building that relationship. And that's just the same thing that we struggle with. It's like, I think everybody wants to communicate with their fans at this state. Well, not everybody.
You'd
Some people
hope
keep
so.
the mystique, but
Yeah, I feel like that's like a lot of, or not a lot, but there are like a portion of bands that their heroes were people that you did not know at all personally, and
Yeah,
all these
so
like
they go
Robert
for that.
Plant and all that. Like,
yeah.
you know, they weren't. You couldn't pull up a million YouTube interviews with him, or you know, Bus Invaders or like anything like that. It was like you heard his songs and you maybe caught a glimpse of him walking up to the stage and like, or walking to the bus, and like
Yeah.
that was it. And I feel like some people like try to still keep that, but it's just like.
I think that's gone out the window.
Yeah, I think it's old school. I don't think that works anymore.
I would be very tempted to say it's impossible
Yeah.
to
for
do
sure.
that and like still make it, unless I don't know.
Well,
like
with
the
social
music would have
media,
to be, the music
yeah.
would have to be so next level
Yeah.
that it would be like
For
you know.
sure.
I think with social media and everything right now, that is impossible. Like,
Yeah.
because you
People
think,
just wanna
think
be-
of some artist you like, you're gonna look up all their socials and
Yeah.
be like, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, you might not look up their Facebook, but you know, YouTube and all
Right,
that shit.
yeah.
So,
Or like even like promoting shows is like such a
Mhm.
important tool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Better than, or like you're either gonna do that or like what, do like radio or something, like
Yeah.
I don't know who
Do you feel like
listens to the radio.
here's a question I had. Do you feel like now, like the local scene is oversaturated versus how it would have been like 20 years ago without technology and social media and all that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think people are pretty.
20 years ago?
Yeah, 20, 30 years
More
ago.
saturated
2000?
now.
Oh, wow.
20 years ago?
How about 30 years ago?
99?
But well, I feel like
Forget we're
think
getting
of
older.
how
99.
think of how like numb you are to when you get like a Facebook invite. Even think of like when Facebook probably first came out and you got an invite, you'd probably be like, "What is going on?" You know, you're like, "What's
going on in the neighborhood?
Yeah, yeah. But now it's just like you get invites for everything.
Yeah, and
People
you
so-
ignore
like,
all of them.
Yeah, 'cause-
A
so
lot of people do.
totally, and like especially in Nashville, there's so many shows going on, you know, and why would somebody want to come see Archeons?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this band.
Right.
You know,
So
I look
What are you
them
talking
up,
about? You're in it.
Yeah, open your eyes, Trey.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
but you know, and I just think that, and that's what going back to, that's the issue I think that locals have, is just figuring out how to bring people to the show. That's the issue that we have.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
getting people to pay attention to you, like
Well,
actually.
Facebook invites, like even personally, like the invite's gonna mean something different depending on who it is inviting you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's why selling yourself is so much more important now. 'Cause
Very
it's
true.
like if it's someone I don't know inviting me to something, I'm like, what the fuck? But if it's like one of my friends from back home, it's like trying to start something. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, I know them. I'm like, boom, you got it, bud. Like that's the least I could do.
Yeah.
So build relationships. I would say Facebook invites and event requests, invites do not work at all.
Yeah, well, I
tough.
think it's
With
like
the-
what
Trey,
Brian's saying
what's
is
your
like,
insight on that?
I think, well, it's like
Does that shit
what,
work?
yeah, I think what Brian was saying is like you have to give people a reason. So, like,
I feel like some awareness, some type of pre-existing relationship that event could
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
It could
so
be a big deal.
people look you up, they listen to your podcast, they, you know, they see who you are, they watch some of your YouTube videos, and then you invite them to a show, and they're like, hey, like I've watched this guy's stuff, so like,
You know,
I
you
wanna
feel
come."
like they
So-
feel like they know you and stuff like that.
Yeah. So like the way I would say it is, you would boost. Say you're playing a show, you would boost your music video to somebody, you know, and then people who watch 75% or more of that, you give them another video. It could be like the behind the scenes for that or something, and then you could give them long form content. Like here's a podcast, and then so if people watch all this, then you send them an invite, like, oh hey, we're coming to your town, we're gonna play
Yeah.
a show with you.
by the way,
Yeah, and then it's like they've already watched 3 pieces of this content, you know, almost all the way through. Like they're more likely to respond than somebody who you just send an invite.
Yeah,
so it's like
right.
there's a way to do it, and you know, I haven't tested that.
The times are just
But-
changing.
but that just makes sense.
Yeah, it does make- it's like
the
building a
important thing
friendship.
about what you
Right.
just said is not a lot of people think like that.
Mhm.
A lot of bands do not think like that at
Yeah.
all. They're
Well,
just
it's
like
tough. I mean,
they
like,
It's
create
new. This
you
is
just
they
so-
create an event on
Well,
Facebook and they
yeah.
like share it to their friends.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
another skill you have to learn. And it's like that's a way more cost-effective and just overall effective way of, you know, advertising yourself as opposed to blanketing a
Right.
bunch of people who don't care with all this information that they don't care about and paying for it, then it's like you're just like trying to.
Yeah,
you want the people that are interested to get fed your stuff, and like if you're not, then that's cool.
Yeah,
but.
so it's the way like Indiepreneur describes it is like you're actually building a friendship. So if you met somebody, you meet somebody at a party or something, you're showing them. So that would be your first music video. It's like they see it on Facebook. You're not sharing it to them. It's just, and a lot of times people don't even see the sponsored thing because they could just be scrolling and watching videos. So it's like it's just popping up. And they're introduced to you, and so then it's like, okay, hey, you're introduced, and it's like, here's another piece of content, and that would just be like getting to know somebody's name or something, or shaking their hand, and then you get the long form, and so that's like your discussion, you're talking back and forth, and then like the show would be like, hey, do you want to catch a drink with me? Like you invite this person that you just met, and like to go do something with you, and usually you want to give them an incentive, so that's another thing. So it's like you give them these pieces of content, now there's a show, what's in it for them? Yeah, they'll come out because they've seen some of your stuff, but like if you can give them another reason to, then like why wouldn't they come out? It's like,
a good point about like getting someone's phone number, and it's like if you just meet someone and they ask you for your phone number, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah,
but if they like have a reason to, like, hey, if you give me my phone number, I'll we can meet up and like I'll let you borrow that, whatever we were talking about. It's like,
exactly.
It's like, it's weird if you're just like, hey, what's up, man? Can I get your number?
Yeah.
People are like, for what?
Tested that a few times at the bar.
Yeah, right. It never works.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just
okay. Almost never works.
It's a numbers game.
And I feel like that's where like we're kind of like a step on ahead of, like thinking like that, because it does make sense. And I remember thinking of that when I first started watching Entrepreneur. I was like, this makes so much sense, but it's still implementing it and figuring out how to do it. That's still like tough, and
you gotta figure out your own personal angle.
And there's like there's so many hurdles to overcome, like starting off. And
because knowing all that is a skill set, and then implementing it comes with so many other different skill sets that you have to figure out. That
I feel like I feel like it's also different, like case to case with bands. Like
totally.
What works for you might not work for somebody else.
Right.
So it's just finding like what your fans or your audience likes.
Yeah.
And then kind of feeding into that, not necessarily like around the music, but like as far as like kind of communicating with your audience and like giving them content that they respond well to. I'm not saying change your sound to fit what your audience likes at all.
Right.
But like if the majority of your audience likes this long form content, like us talking like that, then do that.
Yeah, that's like another, going back to like looking at more successful people for like what's working for them.
Yeah.
Because like you can kind of see what your audience kind of likes with like less trial and error.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's like us having different forms of content, and it's hard to base it like right now with low levels of views, but we have enough content that once people start reacting, we can see it's like, okay, so now we got the podcast, here's long form, we got garage days,
blogs,
the blogs, so it's like, do people like the comedy stuff, do people like the serious stuff, do like what? And that's just like the cool thing about having the content is you'll be able to kind of monitor that and see, but then it's just figuring out how to pull people into where they do see that, and that just goes back to another thing, so yeah, I mean, it's just, it's tough, but I think it's just part of the journey. It's like we talked about how, it's not necessarily about the end goal, because when you're successful, I think that you kind of look back and like look at what we did and look how far we came.
Yeah, I think a lot of it to me is just like knowing that we're making steps every day.
Yeah. Like
that we're making progress, that we're learning something new. I don't know, like that's the part I like about us like being all DIY up until this point, is that we've learned a lot of skills that we can take forward into our careers, and I don't know, I feel like we're all on the same page like with music right now and how to get it out to people, and like the number one thing it seems like we talked about this whole time is just building a relationship with our fans, which is what we're trying to do with this, with our music, with with everything.
With content. I mean, that's just what you're trying to do with content.
The only thing in between there is time and consistency.
Yeah. And that was like the whole thing with this. I was like, I just want to do it for a year and see, like being consistent and releasing something like saying you're gonna do something and then doing it.
Yeah, and that's another big part of it too. That a
Yeah.
lot of bands don't think about is like consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know like I can't think of any other my friends' bands around here that do that, like just constant like content.
It's hard. Well, I mean, look at like
Yeah.
when we started Garage Days, like that was supposed to be, you know, because our little thing says new videos every other week.
Yeah.
You know, and like, but it's hard.
It is hard.
And like that's why podcasting's kind of nice because it's something that we just sit down and have real conversation like we would do anyway.
Yeah, before practice.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, and so that's cool. But yeah, I mean, it's just tough. It's the same with like doing music. It's like look at all the stuff that we're sitting on. It's just like finishing it is
Yeah.
for some reason like so, like it's kind of like scary in a way. It's like because you're releasing
Yeah.
something and nothing's ever really done to you.
I think a lot of it too is like when we write something new, like we all have like different ideas about how we want it to sound.
Uh-huh.
So it's just trying to find compromises and
Very true.
I know for me especially like I get very self-conscious about like, you know, what I lay down. So it's just like I can do that better. I can do that better. And
Yeah.
it's like it always comes to that like
Yeah.
so
I don't think that ever ends.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have like self-imposed deadlines when you're working on like creative stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to
Yeah.
cut it short just to call it done. when it's
I would
really
say
not
it's the same
done
for like a
to
painter or anything.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you know? Yeah. How do you know when it's done?
Yeah.
I was like around some big old paintings today, and I was just like, how do you even think of that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on?
For sure. But I think you know a lot of it too is just like you have to do something and you have to release it and then you just know that your next thing's gonna be better. You know.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Just
like
gotta
we
do
talk.
the best with what you have right now.
It's like we talk about the EP. You know, we got it out. I think that we learned a shit ton from that. I think we learned a lot. You know, vocally, musically, marketing wise,
marketingly.
you know, just like the things that we want to keep and want to get rid of, and
Yeah.
you know,
It's all trial and error.
it is, yeah, for sure,
Trial and error.
That's life for you.
Lots of error.
yeah,
Lots of error.
Mostly,
little trial, lots of error.
mostly error. Yeah.
yeah. I would say it's mostly error.
But
Good
that's how
though.
you learn.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. You have to. You got to fail.
I wanted to talk about like. So I feel like there's a right way and a wrong way to promote shows, and even though the wrong way might work, it's still kind of like I don't know. I had this buddy. I'm not gonna mention any names because like I don't, you know.
Oh, come on, man. Put it out there.
But he tagged a bunch
All
of
right,
like
Tom DeLonge.
he tagged a bunch of like local musicians and like people on his friends list in this post, and basically was like, "You're a piece of shit if you don't come out." I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
obviously,
Okay.
but basically using like the guilt factor for
Right.
like you know
Yeah.
coming out to a show, and like yeah, that may get people to come out, but it's not going to keep them coming
Right.
out long term.
Exactly.
Yeah, I also know of a band from back home that was very much like
Yeah.
looking through my friends list. If you don't like my band, you're getting deleted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, you're playing hardball now. Like,
Yeah.
and like yeah, that may get them to go to that show,
God.
Right.
that one show.
Really?
but-
Yeah.
I would scroll right past that.
All right, yeah.
I think there is a lot of people that are like that, but I know a few people that were tagged in that post was like, "Oh man, yeah, I'm coming out for sure,"
Yeah.
and like, yeah, you can use
Bold strategy.
guilt, and that may get them to go
Come
to
to our
like
show will kill you.
one or two shows, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's long term.
Well, that kind of goes back to, you know, like when we first started and following people on Instagram for a follow back. It's like, yeah, it might, you know, inflate your numbers, but are those people going to pay attention to what you're doing? And like, I think that's just the
I think some of them did, some of them didn't. So.
Yeah. But, you know, I just think that that's,
I just feel like overall it's not a
It's not a good. It's not a good strategy. No.
productive
No, no, no.
method.
because like, you know, it goes back to what we talked about in Evolve, where numbers are for other people, but for us it's quality of fans.
Yeah.
And you want people that are going to engage with you and pay attention. And honestly, I think that our Facebook does moderately well. We can post
Yeah.
something and like it's not one like or something.
No,
you know,
our
usually.
engagement's pretty well.
I feel like we have
Um,
like a core group of people that are looking at us,
Yeah,
and it's just like about
yeah,
But it's all
building
legit.
that inner circle of,
Yeah. and like we've
people
got,
we can talk to.
you know, I feel like we've got a couple of solid fans that actually do pay attention to what
Shout
we're
out
doing.
Jonathan.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
my boy.
Jonathan, and others too. Like I've talked to other people,
Yeah.
you know, and like I know that we have like 4 or 5 people that really I know pay attention. I know it sounds like not a
yeah.
lot, but like I mean it's cool and it's like.
But it is cool when like those 4 or 5 people are like all into what you're doing.
Yeah,
Right.
and like they're not like friends from back home.
Yeah.
You know, Cody, I love you.
Right.
I always appreciate. You know, Cody's been
It means a different thing.
Yeah, it is because it's just like it. Sometimes I know Cody's not like this. Cody's great, and he's followed me a long time, and then we just happen to be able to be roommates now. But you know,
It's a tearjerker.
yeah. But when it's somebody that you know isn't just liking you because you're friends, you know, I think it's a
Yeah.
big thing. Like when you show your friends, and I always ask my friends now when they send me music. I'm like, do you want me to be honest or you want me to be like a friend?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
like, yeah, this is dope.
Yeah.
Or any
Because it's true. Because a lot of time when you send stuff to your friends, like you don't want to hear, they don't want to hear like, they just want to hear it's good and be like, you know, and that's the end of it.
One of my buddies from back home just released some stuff, and I didn't have the heart to tell him like.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. It's like, and because you don't want to like hurt anybody, you don't want them.
And especially like, who are we too?
Exactly. Very
You know?
true too.
Like if I told me that my music sucked, I'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah. What are
Who
you
are
doing?
you? I'd be like, yeah, who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, once Dave Grohl tells me my music sucks, then I'll believe it.
But no,
Like,
I get that like friend level versus like.
Yeah. But see, that goes back to just respecting somebody and like taking their word.
well, I don't respect myself.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
But like respecting somebody as a musician, if somebody you respect as a musician tells you something, you're gonna take it a lot more,
Oh yeah.
you know, serious than if some random person. That's why like Facebook comments never really bug me because I'm like,
Right.
you know, that's fine. You know, you can have your opinion. You're not gonna please everybody.
That's why I like when everyone tells you how to break your band, and then none of them are in successful bands.
Yeah.
Like, oh, all you gotta do is just. I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, if
Yeah.
it was that easy, then you'd probably be in a really big band.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. That's why I love Indiepreneur. I respect the shit out of them, you know, and I see like what they do, and I'm like, I mean, he's
good
helped a lot of
platform.
people
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and done that, so it's like
I
He's making
think
the
I think a lot
transition
about
easier.
I think a lot about him though is like he's trying to sell a product, and he's
But
not.
it's pretty transparent.
But yeah, and
Yeah.
he's not trying to tell you like exactly how to do it. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
here are the tools.
exactly.
Go
Right.
run with it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just easing the transition from like the gatekeepers to
Yeah.
Yeah.
just people doing
I
more.
would probably say like 80% of people that buy his product don't do shit with it,
Right.
Oh yeah.
and it's up to
But it's
you.
not because it's a bad product.
No, it's up
to you.
It's because
It
you have to
is.
use it. Yeah.
I think that's anything.
I think it's a
Any
great
product.
platform.
He's
Like,
selling
what they're doing
knowledge.
is great. You know, he's making things that are like, you know, top industry level things, like bite size, like, you know, easy to
Oh
understand.
yeah, for sure.
So
And he got a lot of his stuff for people who are interested. A lot of that's from Digital Marketer, which
Yeah.
is where I learned some marketing stuff and everything. So it's cool because it's really funny because Digital Marketer is great too. They're just like Indiepreneur, but like instead of just music, it's for marketing in general. But I remember when I first started getting my certifications with Digital Marketer, and like it's just the same things, you
Yeah.
know. And he just like twisted it and made it make sense
made
for
it
musicians,
to musicians, yeah.
you know.
Which
I
is
was-
smart.
Hey man,
It is,
Very
yeah.
smart.
It's
I
really
love that.
cool.
can't say I wouldn't do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Find your niche is
Yeah.
that not one of the lessons?
Yeah.
You know, he did it.
Yeah,
We're doing a lot of commercials for
for things.
free
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, I just think that it's important to like.
Well, I
We're
think
not
we need.
endorsed
I
by
think we
any
need to be
entities.
transparent and tell people like what we're doing, and
Yeah.
you know,
Because it just
if
goes
other
back
if
to
other
it.
bands listen to this, like, you know, we're not trying to keep this all to ourselves.
Yeah.
There's no reason.
Totally.
Like, we want you to do well as, you know.
but I mean,
Yeah.
a sponsorship's cool. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that just goes back to just knowing that everybody's in this for the same, because you have a passion and you want to do it. And I think that like trying to hold back information because you want to be successful,
Yeah.
and somebody else just doesn't.
And then
it
you'd
doesn't
be-
make sense anymore.
And then you'd be so surprised how many people you will give this gold mine resource to, and then
Yeah.
they'll just be like, yeah.
And think
Yeah,
like,
think
whatever,
think about
not
this.
use
Is
it, I'll
like,
not care.
you know, with the tools and things that we use, we're not going to reach the same people.
Right.
Like,
Right.
we may push
Different
something
people
to like
different stuff.
It's like if people did their Facebook
Yeah.
audiences, they're going to be a lot different than ours.
we
like
may
other
push
bands.
something to 1,000 people, but maybe only 100 of them like it.
Yeah.
The rest of that 900, you know,
10 people will.
well, still, it's just an
Yeah,
example.
that's yeah.
But, like,
Shout
The rest of those people might like.
Yeah, the rest of those
stuff,
people
or
might like
the
another
same
band's
people
thing.
But
might
see,
like
that's
your
why,
stuff.
like, and I would love, God, going back to the local
Shit,
thing.
oh God.
If any local bands ever listen to this, I would love to sit down and work on like marketing, because
We've tried doing this before.
we have, yeah, for sure. Well, and like it goes back to it's like, what are we doing? You know, like once we maybe start
It's
getting
easier
success,
when you have something
then
to show.
they'll be like, okay, you know, now we'll kind of pay attention
And
to
then
you.
you'll have just too much work on your hands.
Probably. But what I'm saying is like,
Yeah,
I would
I
love
Hopefully.
to do like the marketing in Nashville, because you can specifically put Nashville, and then we would take like our 5 influence bands that we would come up with, and then put them into an audience, and then they would take their 5, put them into an audience, and then what other band puts it, and then put that into an audience, and then you're reaching, you know, all these different
To,
people.
to like market a
You're
show,
giving
you mean?
giving your music to these people, so you would do like what we were talking about earlier, where like, here's a music video, here's a piece of content, here's another piece of content.
Yeah.
If 3
Here's
bands,
a show.
4 bands did that, and then to Nashville with all these different, you know, bands that are overlooking, so it's kind of hard to explain like if you don't know what I'm talking about, but anyway, you would reach a ton of different people, and it's like that would create a show. It's like you would be helping each other out, because people come out for that band, but then, you know, hopefully they'd stick around.
And
for your
another
band
thing
stuff.
to think about is like, I feel like a lot of bands book a show and they don't promote it till like a week before.
Mm-hmm.
With your method right there, you need to start like a couple months in advance.
Oh yeah, for sure. You gotta start delivering really early, because it's like, here's your music video
Strategy.
first, and then
planting the
like I
seed.
said, this is all stuff that we haven't really got to test too much. It just kind of makes sense, and I would like.
Given
to
that,
test.
like with the other bands, like not only do they have to be like open and being okay with us being like, hey, we're trying to help you, you know, come, you know, like let us show you the ropes. They also have to be okay with investing in themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of other bands like that are not on that page yet
it's tough
either.
to be like, hey, we need, you know, $100 or you know something like that.
Like, what is this scam?
Yeah. Like, I promise it's not going to me,
Yeah.
but yeah, totally. And like that's tough, man. And it's like I said, we have to kind of pave the way and do it and start getting. First, we have to play shows.
Yeah.
And then second, we have to bring people out to shows, give people a reason to come out to shows. And then I think once we start doing something, people are like, oh, you brought 50. Because if you brought 50 people out, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, like that
For a
doesn't
local
sound
show,
like that.
yeah.
For a local
Yeah.
show. So if other people saw that you could consistently draw like 50 people, say you play a show like once every other month or once a month or something, and you consistently do that, then people will be like, okay, what are you doing? And then you could hopefully help
Right.
out. But like Chris said, maybe you get to a point where then you can't help, but like I get it, you know, like I get why people don't want to. It's hard to put your trust.
I mean,
in
it'd be harder
something.
to help like one-on-one once you get busy, but then
Mhm.
hopefully we'll be able to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And hopefully, when the numbers grow, then you're helping.
Yeah.
The number of people that hopefully will hear it will grow too.
Right. Very true. Yeah, man. I just. It all makes sense. It's implementing it and. Just
teamwork, but
teamwork, yeah, and just getting the local scene to really come together and trust each other. And I think it's important to, you kind of gotta find the people who really want to do this and understand that it's not just about making music.
Yeah.
And that's tough, and
Unless
it's
you
tough
want
to
it to
hear.
be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not trying to,
different goals, different.
yeah, if your goals are different, if you just want to play shows and stuff, I'm not saying
Yeah.
anything against that. I just mean like if you're trying to break out, tour.
If you want career
Be
style
legit.
thing, you know.
I think another good point you made is teamwork. Like even like not, you know, getting other people involved, even inside your band. Like usually it seems like most bands have like 1 or 2 people that do everything.
Mhm.
I think it's getting, you know, all the pieces involved and on the same page in your band as well.
Yeah.
Like
For sure.
I know there's like certain things that each of us do in this band that we have like that are like our things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's you have to find that and you have to work towards the same goal and, you know, try to get that, you know, connected with every other piece.
Yeah, that's the
Bring it
tough
all
part
together.
too. Is like, you know, because I feel like even with us, it's like something will happen to where one person kind of falls off, and then the
Yeah.
other 4 people could be on, and then when
And
that
of course
person
life
gets back
happens,
on,
yeah.
exactly. And like, I mean, it happens to all of us. It's hard to get 5 people going in the same direction, especially when you're kind of sitting in the standstill of like, what's kind of next, or what are we gonna do, you know? But I also think it's teamwork not only within the band but within the local community,
Yeah.
and I think that's huge. And I think that we'll get there, and I think that's a reason I want to start bringing on other people on, you know, other local bands and stuff onto the
Definitely.
podcast and
Yeah.
stuff, and just like talk to them about stuff like this. Like, Like, you know, how do you think? Because obviously there are so many people here who are trying to do this for their life. So, like, they have to... This is our take and, like, what we found through our research and what we've tried. So, what are they thinking? Right. And it's like, could you imagine if everybody really openly conversed about this and then putting your ideas together?
You learn so much from other people trying to do it, you know?
Yeah. Because, like, I'm sure a lot of people around here haven't found anypreneur. So, like, what have they found and what are they, you know, working towards?
Right.
But then it's also tough because you don't want to go into... I don't ever want to have, like, hey, that's really not a good idea, you know? Like, so that would be...
That's also for them to figure out.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Yeah. And
there's a lot of things that we did that weren't good ideas. So.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
Trial and error.
Trial and error.
So I'm going to wrap this up because I have to pee really bad. We're all on the same team. I heard someone say bands aren't in competition with each other. We're in competition with, like, sports.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like, other stuff that's, like, you know, like, no one's not listening to
your band because they're listening to somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
So
very true.
Hopefully coming at you with more collaboration soon. Some interviews, some local bands and stuff.
Yeah. Would definitely love that.
Any closing thoughts?
E3 Final Fantasy VII Remake, bruh. Dude.
Completely way off. Okay.
Man.
Trash.
I just have to get it out there because it's E3.
Alright, well,
haven't seen
Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Bro, that's where we're
if I had to sum up everything we talked about.
Oh, okay. That's
sorry. If I had to sum up everything we talked about, teamwork, consistency, and building relationships with your fans. Like, if you're a local band, that's the 3 things you need to focus on.
From our perspective.
From our perspective.
From our point of view.
But I feel like we've experimented enough that, like, that is...
Yeah, like I said, it's just figuring out how to implement it.
As a general consensus, that is the most 3 important things you can do.
Yeah, I would say.
So, if you're a local band out there listening to this, feel free to reach out to us. We'll, you know, communicate with you, bounce ideas back and forth.
Teach us something.
You guys could definitely teach us something, too. So, that's all for me. Anybody else got anything?
Have to pee.
He has to pee. All right, we will see you guys next week.
Be good to thy neighbor.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.